Welcome to Meteorology Matters. Hurricane season is basically here, and today we're looking at some, well, pretty concerning reports coming out of the National Weather Service. It sounds like the agency is facing some significant staffing challenges.
Yeah, and for anyone who relies on weather forecasts, which is pretty much everyone, the NWS is fundamental. They're our first line of defense when storms gather. So any kind of internal turbulence like this, especially now, really needs a closer look.
Absolutely. We're hearing numbers like 155 job openings across the country. That feels like a big gap as we head into what could be an active season.
And it's not just like entry-level spots either. What's really striking is the range of positions. We're talking light meteorologist roles, Fairbanks, Alaska, for instance. Even the meteorologist in charge position in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Wow, Lake Charles. They know hurricanes all too well there.
Exactly.
And those local forecasters, they're the ones on the ground, right?
Yes.
Talking to mayors, emergency managers, translating the big picture forecast into, okay, what do we need to do right here, right now? That coordination seems vital.
It absolutely is. It's about saving lives, protecting property, and it goes beyond the meteorologists, too. You need hydrologists for flood warnings, a huge part of hurricane impacts.
Right.
And then there are the IT folks, the technicians keeping the radar and the computer models running. If those systems falter, well, everything gets harder.
So, understandably, these reports, these vacancies, they've set off some alarms. We're hearing from Democrats in Congress, former NWS officials. They're asking, basically, are we ready? Are we prepared for major weather events with these kinds of gaps?
Representative Zoe Lofgren used some strong language, didn't she? Mentioned a panic level inside the department about filling these jobs.
Yeah, that suggests a real scramble behind the scenes.
And then you hear about internal documents, NOAA managers asking staff to think about reassignments, possibly even involving demotions. That really tells you how serious the situation is. They're trying anything to plug the holes.
And this is all happening just as NOAA is set to release its Atlantic hurricane season outlook May 22nd.
Right. So we'll get the forecast for the season right alongside news of these internal staffing struggles. Kind of ironic timing.
It seems like this didn't just appear overnight, though. The report suggests it's a combination of things.
Yeah, retirements are part of it, sure.
Yeah.
But there's also mention of actions from the previous administration, things like a deferred resignation program and quite a few firings playing a role in where things stand now.
There was that open letter, too, from 5 former NWS chiefs. That really caught my eye.
Very
Yeah.
significant. They warned these staff cuts could, and I think this is a direct quote, lead to a needless loss of life.
Wow.
They even flirted the idea of filling some roles part-time. I mean, that really shows the depth of the problem if you're considering part-time for critical forecasting roles.
The numbers themselves are pretty stark. What was it, 250 fired or took buyouts back in February?
Yeah, and then another 300 apparently left since then.
So that's over 500 people. Over 10% of their staff gone, right before things typically get busy.
It's a huge deficit. And getting answers seems tough, too. House Democrats on the Science Committee have apparently sent letters to the Secretary of Commerce, who oversees NOAA.
But no response yet.
That's what the reports indicate. And that silence, doesn't exactly build confidence.
Now, the NWS spokesperson, Kim Doster, did issue a statement, said the agency continues to meet its core mission.
Right. And she mentioned they've updated the service level standards for forecast offices to manage the personnel shifts.
But what does that mean exactly? Updated service level standards. It sounds a bit vague.
It is vague. We don't have the details on what those changes actually entail, what's being adjusted, what's potentially being scaled back. We don't know.
And the overall picture suggests NOAA staffing could drop by, what, 20% between these departures and maybe more cuts coming?
Well, that's the projection being reported, yes.
Okay.
A 20% reduction. That's a massive hit for the National Weather Prediction Agency.
Representative Gabe Amo suggested this might even be, like, by design, happening right when we might face a really intense hurricane season.
It certainly raises questions about priorities, especially given the timing.
And we're seeing tangible impacts already, right? Reports of some offices struggling to maintain 247 operations.
Yes, that's a major concern. For an agency built on round-the-clock vigilance, having offices potentially go dark overnight, it's worrying.
They're even offering moving expenses to get people to transfer to the most understaffed offices.
It shows how critical the shortages are in certain places, and they're trying to shuffle resources around, but that creates its own problems.
We've heard specific offices have actually stopped 24-hour operations already. Places in California, Kansas, Kentucky.
That's right. Sacramento and Hanford in California's Central Valley, Goodland in western Kansas, and Jackson in eastern Kentucky. Reports say they've had to curtail overnight shifts due to thin staffing. And it might not stop there. Cheyenne, Wyoming, Marquette, Michigan, Pendleton, Oregon, Fairbanks, Alaska, they're apparently next on the list, possibly by June 1st.
So what happens when these offices aren't staffed overnight? What are the potential consequences?
Well, you could miss developing weather threats. Issuing aviation forecasts becomes harder. Even launching weather balloons on schedule, which provide crucial data, could be disrupted.
Tom Fayette from the National Weather Service Employees Organization basically said this is the end of the NWS as a 247 operation.
Yeah, a pretty stark assessment. It challenges the fundamental way the NWS has operated for decades.
We also heard from Brian Lamar, a retired NWS meteorologist in charge. He suggested maybe this push for, quote, efficiency is actually undermining the core mission.
It's a valid point to raise. Is there a trade-off happening between streamlining and maintaining that essential safety function?
And that government-wide hiring freeze from January hasn't helped, presumably.
Definitely complicates things. Even if they want to hire quickly, there are hurdles. Though they say they're looking at other ways to bring people on board.
The list of specific vacancies is just long. Lake Charles needs a head meteorologist, 2 senior ones. Houston, similar leadership gaps.
5 meteorologists needed in Fairbanks. Hanford, California needs forecasters, technicians, IT support.
Goodland, Kansas needs 3 senior meteorologists. Multiple offices in Arkansas, Michigan, Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming need senior staff. Cleveland, Cincinnati.
It's widespread. And they're even trying to get 4 meteorologists to move to Guam. That tells you how stretched they are, globally even.
The agency admits filling these roles will be tricky, and they have to be careful not to create new holes by moving people.
Right. It's like shuffling deck chairs, potentially. You fill one gap, you might open another.
Which brings us back to Representative Lofgren's worry about dire consequences. With hurricane season basically upon us, it feels very real.
Yeah. But Tom Fee also stressed, the dedication of the people still there. They're picking up the slack, working harder.
That commitment is incredible, but it's not sustainable long term.
No, it's not. And Dr. Andrew Hazelton, who used to be a hurricane hunter and was laid off himself, made a good point. He said, yes, staffing is critical, but just transferring people isn't the whole answer. You risk weakening the offices people leave from. The real need is for new hires, actual additions to the workforce.
And just to underline the scale again, 250 laid off, another 300 gone since. Those former NWS chiefs calling it a significant deficit right now. That's a heavy warning.
So really, the core issue seems to be this chaos, this disruption from firings and buyouts, and now the struggle to hire replacements quickly enough, all colliding just as the Atlantic hurricane season starts. It puts the National Weather Service under tremendous pressure.
And that inevitably raises serious questions, doesn't it, about the agency's capacity to fully deliver on its mission, protecting lives, protecting property when severe weather hits.
Which brings us to something for you, the listener, to think about. With the NWS facing these major internal challenges right now, what does that mean for your community's readiness? For your own safety plans as we head into peak storm season, it's definitely worth considering the potential impact close to home.
For more weather insights and updates, definitely follow meteorologist Rob Jones. You can find him on Instagram, that's meteorologist. On TikTok, he's TV meteorologist. And on YouTube, look for Rob Jones Hurricane. That YouTube channel also has the Meteorology Matters podcast playlist.